Right, we're doing a second take on this thing. Yeah, as I was saying, this is probably the second most important video in the series, and I'm completely bodging it up because I spent all my time actually doing the work and not actually recording very much about it and all the stuff that you might want to know. I'll put a bit more work into putting the links and descriptions in the description of this video, and that's probably the resource you're going to need rather than trying to page through this video in too much detail. Just do it for the pictures, really. So this is how things are looking now once I've started putting some painted eyes in to make it look a lot more attractive, because it was starting to worry me that it looked terrible without any eyes, and I put in so much work. So yeah, there's a little bit of a likeness in there. So there are two sort of pieces of tech I was using here. I was doing the surface flattening using Blender, and I'll go into that in a little bit. And we're also cutting the fur using a laser cutter. And this works so well. I'm surprised that not all the makers aren't using it this way, because you can tune the laser so low that it just about trims through the backing. You could, maybe there's a little bit of perforations, you need to pull it apart, but it doesn't touch any of the fur itself, and so you have no fur fibers lying around all over the place like you do when you use scissors. And you also get so much accuracy on the edges and the corners that you've drawn in your diagram that it's like fitting together a puzzle piece, where you could jam the wrong puzzle in the wrong piece in the wrong puzzle hole, but usually you can tell that you haven't got it right. And sometimes these little tiny pieces of information have been what I need, because I lose track of 60 pieces and left sides and right sides and upside downs and things, because some of them look pretty symmetric at these sizes, right? I was constantly throwing the whole sort of puzzle onto the head base just to check I was getting everything together. There's another bit of a challenge. Was I ran out of gray fur and was trying to stitch together a whole bunch of scraps into one piece and then laser cutting a shape around it. That didn't work, and luckily I found some other gray fur to go on my ears, which actually turned out quite nice, even though I've got some of the directions wrong. There it is. As things sew together, you can throw more and more onto the head base. I think the nose, I had a little bit of a blemish in that nose, but actually someone told me they didn't like the nose anyway, and now I don't like it either, because once they brought that to my attention, because of these nasty little seams up here. I thought these seams here were nice, but the one along the top is a bit foldy. The stitching is all being done using what I call a blanket stitch, where you hold the two pieces together and you pull the thread. Oh my goodness, put that out of the way. You pull the thread through it, and then you hook back and you loop the needle back through the loop. And so when you pull it tight, it kind of knots together and holds it really firm. But one of the problems is that you're trying to do it right on the very edge of the fabric. You're usually sometimes pulling the last couple of threads out, and it whatever it is, it pulls apart. So I'm not too good at sewing there. That's there we go, throwing it on again, trying to see how all the bits of fur don't seem to match up. I've started trimming these edges here with scissors, and it sort of really brings the detail out, but that's one of those irreversible things if you trim too much. This is also showing the backing. I've done very tiny pieces as well. I mean, I saw videos of fursuit makers doing really small freckles and things, so I thought might as well get these triangles done right. Points like on that front of the nose are also a bit of a challenge, because it always goes down to less than one thread, and that definitely isn't going to be sewable. But it was getting there. There's a bit more sewing. You're just trying to hold the two pieces together and then run the needle back and forth through it. Sewing doesn't take as long as it looks, because it's just linear. If you add it all up, it's like maybe a couple of meters, and you do a stitch every couple of seconds. That's, how many hours is 1,000 seconds? Not very many hours really. So I kind of like sewing. There we are, throwing it together. So these two pieces come around the edge and then they sew together, and there's the mouth. And let's see. Yeah, so this is before the big job was going to happen, when I had it all laid out flat. But we should go have a look at Blender, because that's also the important bit. Let's do pause, unpause. Right, so here's Blender. This is, I'm trying to operate all this through through the through the headset and OBS. It's a bit of a challenge. Anyways, there's the various pieces shaded under texture shading, and then, but normally when you're doing things, you do random shading, so you can see, you know, all the different bits. But the shading which we've been using is the attribute shading, which is the basis of the flattener. Right, now this is based on a Blender Seams to Sewing Pattern add-on that you can find in Blender. But the trouble is the flattener algorithm they're using is sort of the UV flattening, which is wrong because it preserves angle but doesn't preserve area, and so the things you sew together won't be quite right. But the interface is beautiful. So after a lot of hacking and trying to get it back to where it was there, I got something fairly bodged together using a flattener function that is in FreeCAD. And I used to have to export everything from Blender through a slicer all the way into FreeCAD. But what I've done is I've moved all my FreeCAD code back into Blender, into this add-on, so it's all fully integrated. So if we pick one of these pieces here, well, let's just start with the nose, because that's kind of like, you can see there's stuff going on here. So if we hit the pause, you can see in it, you can see these cuts around here, and then everything's sort of shaded according to the stretchiness. Actually, why don't we do this one here? This one's kind of like more interesting. There we go. There's the one with the freckles, and there's these edges. Let's pick that one here. Okay, so if I select one of these pieces and then I do object seams to sewing pattern, and then use my FreeCAD flatten component and change the stretch angle like so. Okay, there's the pieces that we get. There we go. You can see that this, yeah, this is the pattern. This is the something going on somewhere over there. Anyway, we're a bit close in. Yeah, so this is the flattening piece of this, but it is a fairly flat piece, because you can see you could just fold out these individual triangles to get what you want, and the only challenge will be around here. I'll pick another one that's actually more of a challenge, is this really big piece here. And I've flattened out, I've had to add in seams around this little piece of the mouth crease where the curvature is negative, where, you know, it's like the inside of a saddle shape. Those are the hardest parts to flatten, because you can't just do them with darts. If you did it with a dart and flatten it, the two pieces would sort of curl back and overlap each other, and obviously wouldn't be possible to cut. And then you've got these individual things there. Now I just wanted to show how the flattener works on this sphere, because that's you know, yeah, on a sphere, because it's you know what the answer is supposed to be, and then you can see how all the colors are working. So if I take this sphere and I select that and cut the bottom part, okay, so we just have the top sphere, and I do the sewing pattern on this guy. Let's step him up a bit. Okay, you'll see that the sphere is colored red where the triangles have got smaller, and blue where they've got larger. So yeah, oh, it's still recording. Good. Okay, blue where they've got larger. For a moment I thought I'd forgotten to unpause it. Blue where it's got larger. So if you take this sort of shell here and you squash it down flat, you'll see obviously this will be scrunched up and this will be stretched. So that's kind of the right way round. Now I've also done tried to color the flattened piece to give you a bit more of a guidance of what exactly is happening, because triangles, they can sort of stretch in one way and squash in the other way and stay the same area. Oh yeah, also you can tell the flattener is kind of optimal because there's one ring around the middle, which is the correct size, so it's distributed properly, the distortions. Now yeah, so what's happened is that Blender allows you to color the corners or nodes, and then it sort of distributes, it interpolates the nodes and colors the faces. Now it's not possible to actually color edges, but what I've done to do that is I've let's move this guy over a little bit. Yeah, is I've added in this flat piece, I've added in extra nodes here and added the colors there, the common color between that edge and that edge, so that you get a bit of an impression that there's some kind of edge going on. And the coloring on the edges is blue if it's been stretched, which also kind of makes sense. So what we then do is, and this is the actual magic of it, is that we can select a dagger, a dart. Okay, we're gonna put in a dart like so, and do edge mark seam. Okay, now there we go, there's the seam. We go back and then we do object seam sewing pattern. There we go, and yeah, you can see it's now opened it out, and it's a lot flatter in terms of the coloring. This is where the problem you get on the face coloring is you get the sort of alternated stretched and squashed on each of the triangles. You don't really know what to do. Whereas a little clearer what to do here is that there's a sort of stress lines along here where you can see the blue lines lining up, and you know the answer is obvious, that you really need to just put in another dividing line here, or probably here, to to spread it out, and then you eventually wind up kind of like an orange peel. Yeah, so that's basically that add-on. I got all these pieces, so let's go back to the pictures. About ready to do the gluing. So I've cleared some space, and I've got this spray adhesive. This is the other thing I've discovered, is that a lot of the fursuit makers, they tend to use hot glue, which is kind of good, because you glue it in, and it's got it's a bit sort of molten, like honey, and you can sort of move stuff around and pull it and hold it tight as it sets. But the problem then is it sets into something really hard and beady, and feels quite nasty if you actually squish it in your hands. Whereas this stuff here is amazing. If you glue a couple of pieces together of the foam and let it set, then you can't feel the join anymore. So I decided to use that on the fur as well, so that it would feel much more pleasant. But obviously it then didn't necessarily pull tight in time for it to be, pulled under real tension. So that probably might have been the problem it caused in the mouth. So here we go. Yeah. So this was, I'd glued everything. I'd sewed everything I could, including the inside of the mouth and a bit of lycra that was going to be these little black lips, which aren't right either. That's going to be a whole other problem. Yeah. So we're pulling the pieces through the backside. You'll notice also, because I've made the top of the head hollow. It's been really useful for getting access, because you can put your hand in there and your hand underneath and get them. I don't know how people can make fursuit heads where they can only go through the neck when they're working on the inside. We got a little bit there, and this was the very first gluing of the nose. It was kind of exciting. Is you sort of spread it all on, and then you peel it back like a sock as far as you can, and then start squirting bits of glue in. I didn't get that bit right anyway, which is a bit sad. The nose is going to be a bit of redoing the nose is going to be a bit of a challenge. Apparently everything can be fixed, so we'll see what we can do. And then we're gradually pulling on a bit more of the fur. This was another important bit, was you see these sort of little pointy bits on the edges of my cheeks. just check. We're still, oh my god, we're going to 14 minutes. Yeah, these pointy bits on the edges of the cheeks is when I made my first version, the half head, they got horrible, nasty, and floppy, like little pockets or something. And I found if you take pieces of milk carton and cut little points out of it, like those guitar strum things, you can put it in there, and that just adds a little bit of extra strength in there to make them pointier. And this is really nice. These little tricks I've found. Here we are pulling it together. There's the different fur on the backs of the ears. And I tried to do an assembly, getting rather excited. I got to say that it was a hell of an experience pulling this thing onto the fur. I felt I had a bit of an out of body experience in terms of feeling very furry. If you're furry, you know what this means. But that was the most intense I've had. I had to almost cry a little bit, but. Yeah, I'm sure I'll get used to it. So the ears. Oh yeah, the ears. I should have showed that on the blender things. These pointy ears, far too tight a definition to actually cut out of foam, but I could fur them, and I made them out of 6 little tiny pieces that were all sewed together and then sewed on the top. And on the left, that's how they originally looked like when I sewed them together, and it looked terrible. And then I started trimming it, and then this sort of shape came out. I could do a lot more trimming, but so I'm going to be pretty. When I have the head on, I can like feel my hands right up onto the top of the ears, and it's kind of nice feeling all the different little shapes around you. There we go. There's the ear on top. A lot of trimming. Very careful trimming that it needed to do to bring the shape out soon, or at least the colors. It's irreversible if you cut something, so I'm very delicate with it. And there we go at the end. Oh yeah, where I went, as I spent a week in Brussels, not doing anything useful. Not doing anything useful in terms of making videos, and visited one of my VR chat friends who works in a university there. She took a photo of me proudly showing this cursed item with its fallen off ears. She was very nice about it. It wasn't mean to me, even though it is looking really worrying. A little bit better when you put the hair on, but it's one of these things where you go positive and negative. This is going to be the most awesome thing ever, or it's just gone terribly bad. It's quite an emotional roller coaster, and I guess that's it. Till the next challenge is now trying to get the teeth in without messing up, and overcoming the fact that the inside of the mouth is too far forwards, and whether I can redo the nose, and also how to do the eyes. There's a lot of eye tricks. And then we got the ear fluff. They've been these bits here. They've been painted gray. There's a lot of purple fur in there, which I've got to trim back. And then so plenty more to do. This is definitely not the end, but it's I might be able to use it next weekend at least. Anyway, see you later.